correctly with the correct amount.
Potato salad. She's making up a big batch of beans. We're gonna invite all your friends and your family and your dog named Spot. We're gonna barbecue you. Put some more gas on the fire.
That was Barbecue You by Saint Madness from their recent album Satanic. The street team loves Saint Madness and their new CD Satanic. They all took off to a bush party last night and that's all they listened to for the whole entire night. We have a shout out to Saint Madness from one of our street team members.
Hi, this is Gracie. You are tuned in to HMTV Canada E-Zine. Saint Madness is one of our favorite bands and we love their newest CD, Satanic.
Hi, DJ Tina here, host of HMTV Canada E-Zine. With me today are special guests from the band Saint Madness to talk about their new album that they just released through Nasty Prick Records called Satanic. Log on to www.saintmadness.com and see why their new music is creating a buzz in the media. Hi Saint Madness, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. Can you tell me who's together today for this interview?
Well, you have Prophet, and you have Solomus. I'm Dead Lucius, baby. And Happy Evil. And March Johnson, our manager.
Congratulations on the release of your recent album, Satanic. Big thank you for the CD. We haven't been able to stop playing the addictive songs from your new album. I really dig the album art of this CD. Eric Madd did a wonderful job. Is he the same artist that designed Saint Madness' previous album covers and merchandise?
He actually did the We Make Evil Fun record, and he did the Vampires in the Church record, but what's kind of unique on this new record is half of the artwork is Eric Mack, and the other half was actually done by Christian Satan, one of our lead guitarists.
Wow. Can you tell us what motivated the band to write their lyrics in an intelligent way to educate us about our fears of the future and corrupt political system?
Well, I write the lyrics for Saint Madness, and I go in like three different areas. On the one hand, I love scary movies, so I write a lot of fiction about murder and so forth. But I also spend a lot of my time looking at the world, and I write about what I see going on out there. And if something touches me in my heart, I'll write lyrics about it. And the cool thing about working with these guys in this band is nobody has ever said to me, I don't want you to write that in a song. I can write about pretty much whatever I want. So some of our stuff is real serious and real political, and then there's stuff like Barbecue You that is, it's kind of like the old movie Motel Hell or, stuff like that, and it's meant to be taken tongue-in-cheek. Some of our stuff is really sexual. It's just kind of like what we see going on in the world, and then we distort it in our music.
There are two song tracks that are really tearjerkers and really get deep with heartfelt emotion, The Sunday Paper and You Are My Light. Can you tell us about them?
Well, lyrically, the Sunday Paper was, my stepfather passed away in February 15th of 2000, and so the Sunday Paper is really about just the loss there, and the reason why it's called the Sunday Paper is he was kind of a workaholic, and he liked to drink his beer, and the guy was always working, though. I mean, the way he rested was by doing yard work or reading the paper, and so on Sundays, he would sit by the pool and read the Sunday Paper, and for whatever reason, that made a huge impression on me, so that song is about that. And You Are My Light, the lyrics were written for my mother, who was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, in February, oddly enough, of 2007. And it was still in the rough mixed stages. And the last 2 days of her life, she went into kind of a coma where she fell asleep and never woke up. And probably in the last 8 hours of her life, I spent the last 2 days with her pretty much the entire time. And about 8 hours before she passed, I had the song all mixed down and everything, and I played it for her because the nurses and doctors always said to us, you know, the last thing to go is the person's hearing. So, you know, she can hear you. So played the song for her, and, you know, again, about 8 hours later, she passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that. What I like about each song track is that they paint a pic of what we see in the news, experience every day in society, and our fears. Each song is different and have a different meaning and values. Now, I'm curious at this point, do all the band members contribute their ideas in the writing of the lyrics?
No.
Okay.
No, but we can be discussing something, and, you know, our old bassist, Mud, he had an experience where he was coming home from a show one time, and he was done up in all his white, you know, ghoulish face paint, and he had this black outfit that he used to wear with a hood, and on the way home from the show, which would be probably 2, 3 in the morning, he was on his way back to the studio to drop off equipment and whatnot, and he was running low on gas, so he stopped at a Circle K, and he didn't think nothing about it. He got out of his car and went in and, you know, gave him $20 down a pump whatever, and he said, you know, he had forgotten that he was all done up, and everybody was just staring at him. So when he walked back out to the pump, he took his black hood and pulled it over his head while he was standing there pumping gas. So a carload of teenagers drove by and said, look, Death drives a Buick, because he actually drove a Regal Custom, a 1989 Buick. And so when he told us that story, I said, look, you know, we should write that song. So I embellished a bit on the lyrics, but, you know, that conversation inspired the song Death Drives a Buick. So, you know, I write the lyrics for the band, but that's not to say that people come up with ideas for songs all the time. For me, as a writer, I can't just be in a band and be a vocalist, because my mind's full of too much shit, and I have to be able to use it in an artistic way.
We really dig the hard, heavy, haunting, alluring sounds to Satanic. Were there any challenges to the laying of the song tracks for this new album, and how long did it take to record?
30 seconds.
You serious?
No. That's jealous.
Oh, we put a lot of time and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this whole album. So nothing was easy on this album, especially Satanic. It was probably one of the harder songs that we put together.
What we did, though, is we took about a year in and out of the studio, and really I prefer it that way, because we've done records where we'll book like 3-4 weeks all in one shot and go in and record a whole record. And I find that when we do that, the band is much more tense, and, you know, the studio is a weird animal all on its own. And if you're in the studio too long, you tend to get tired of each other and irritable and cranky. So when we do it, we go in, you know, generally we'll record 3-4 songs, whatever, so we're in and out, and then we mix it all down and master it later. So we take our time with it, and this way, you know, it's kind of fun, because we go in the studio a lot instead of lumping it all in one box. You know, we go in several times during that year, and it's kind of like watching photographs develop. You go in and you start with a song, you know, and you have an idea in your head what it's going to be like, and, you know, I will say for myself, pretty much every single time we finish a song and we walk out of there with it done, it's quite a bit different than what I had pictured initially, but it's always better than what I pictured.
That was going to bring me to my next question. Who helps with the mixing and the mastering of all your music production?
We all have say in it. Generally, I produce the albums with Larry Elia. Larry's produced the albums with us for, I'd say, 5 out of 7 records that we've done. We keep going back to Larry because he simply gives us the power and the sound that I love and that we love. And, you know, I don't fix things that aren't broke. But Larry's just got a great ear, and he's he's not all emotionally involved in the music like the artists are when they record it. So, you know, he's pretty straight up and a real easy guy to work with.
How is Satanic different from your previous albums?
It's a little more progressive, too, I think.
More technical?
That's more technical. Every one of our records is different. I can't really think of two that, like, absolutely remind me of each other. And, you know, the thing with St. Madness that we really focus on is that we don't want to be put in any little category. As far as, there's some groups out there that if they do metal music, they do only metal music, and if they do death metal, they do only death metal, or if they do old school, it's only old school. And we're crazy people, so we will record any damn thing we want, and we stand on what we write and record.
Right.
So if we write a hillbilly song, or if we write a blues song, or a reggae song, if we like that song, we're going to stick it on a record, because that's what keeps us kind of in our own little niche.
So, when you said it's more technical, did you use more computers with this album?
No, everything's raw.
Okay.
And with nothing, only the inserts that we got in there, that Christian Satan did. That's the only thing that we use for samples. That's all. Other than that, everything is raw. Just guitar, bass, and drums, and vocals.
By technical, we mean kind of in the writing.
Okay.
On Satanic, all the guitars were done by Christian Satan. On Vampires in the Church, for instance, we had Matt Marvin playing rhythm, and Marvin is like a long, long time friend of the band, and we're still friends, and we'll always be friends. But on this album in particular, Christian Satan did all the guitar work. He wrote all the guitar parts. And now we picked up another second lead guitar player named Hanius James, who isn't with us this evening. And yeah, we promised we were going to give him rations of shit not being able to be here.
No chicken.
Yeah, no chicken for you, Hanius. But we definitely love that two-guitar sound live. It's so powerful. There's, nothing like it. But we've done, countless shows with just one guitarist as well. So we kind of go back and forth.
I really dig your music video, The Anti-Superhero. Where on location was this film, and will you be producing more music videos from Satanic?
Yes, and it was filmed down by our studio. Our rehearsal studio is called Bad Manor, and basically every single album done by St. Madness and When We Were Crown of Thorns were all written in this exact same room. And Christian Satan, again, not only filmed the video for The Anti-Superhero, he produced it, he storyboarded it. Basically, he said he wanted to do a video for it. I said, knock yourself out. You just tell us, what to do and when, and we'll do it. And he produced that video. And there's a number of them now on YouTube and MySpace videos and so forth. If you go check them out, there's a number of them now produced by Christian Satan.
Awesome.
And he's incredible. We just added a new live video from the show that we played on March 27th in support of Flotsam and Jetsam here in Scottsdale at a place called the Scottsdale Venue. And we played the song Walk in tribute to Dimebag Darrell. And, the crowd, everybody was just amped up. It was so great. And Christian basically spliced that whole thing together, and we just threw that up online too. And I'm amazed at what he can do. He's one of these people who can take nothing or something very small and utilize every bit of good that's in there to make it look huge.
Wow.
He's very talented on a bunch of different fronts.
I wish I could see St. Madness play live, and I'm curious, does the band wear all their cool makeup with every live show they do, and do they have pyrotechnical effects with smoke and lights and pots with each killer performance? Because we rarely see these performances in our area, and this is rare.
We definitely wear face paint, and that's our gig. The only fire that you see on stage right now is if the club or venue catches on fire. In the past, we've had all kinds of actors and big light shows and fog, and again, we go in and out of that. We go through periods of time where we just want it to be the band and the music. So we go up there, yes, we're wearing face paint, we wear generally all black, et cetera, but, sometimes we want to just let the music do the talking. And then other times we'll say, hey, let's bring some of the show back, and we'll talk to some of our crazy friends that are willing to do anything, and we'll write a part for them. So the show aspect will never fully go away. It goes away for periods of time, but it'll always be there. It's just kind of what we do.
Will the band be going on a major tour soon to promote Satanic, and will they be selling CDs and St. Madness merchandise?
Well,
Yes, no, and maybe.
we're still at an independent band stage, which means, I heard you say a moment ago that, you don't get a lot of shows like this up where you're at.
No, we don't.
What we need is a sponsor. What we do for one-off shows, for instance, and it might cost a person $3,000 to $5,000, but what we need is airfare, and we need, of course, a by anywhere, come in and play the show. We don't charge tons of money, but that's the best way that we can do it right now. As far as hooking up with a major tour, your guess is as good as mine. We throw our records out there and we promote the hell out of them, and definitely our fan base is growing in many parts of the world. But we're still at that stage where we need sponsors or promoters to get involved and say, hey, we want to bring you, here and there and here and there. And then we can hook something up. So we're open. It's a matter of money, basically.
Are you signed to a record label?
We're on our own label, which is Nasty Frick Records, and we've been on that label since 1994. And originally the band was called Crown of Thorns. A lot of people would say to me, how can you call it Nasty Frick Records? Well, initially we were called Crown of Thorns, and a thorn will give you a nasty frick. But we also knew in calling it that there's a double meaning, and if you look at our band, you'll see that lyrically, art-wise, name-wise, everything has a double meaning, even down to our guitar player being named Christian Satan, or the name Saint Madness, even Crown of Thorns, Nasty Frick Records, everything has like a double meaning.
Okay. I understand the band shared the stage with great artists like Van Halen, Destruction, The Misfits, King Diamond, 6 Feet Under, to name a few. Which music venue comes to mind as being the band's favorite and the most memorable, and why?
Well, Devlin and I might have, we might have the same ones, but what is your most memorable?
Christmas place?
The Mason Jar?
The Mason Jar.
Yeah.
That's I grew up seeing everybody I wanted to see at the Mason Jar.
The Mason Jar was a very famous metal club here. It was much like Gazzari's was in L.A. back in the day. Everybody from huge stars to nobody's played the Mason Jar. Mine is probably Jobbing.com Arena. We played there in June or July. I believe it was June of '05. There's a event called Rage in the Cage, which is like the ultimate fighting style of event, and we were the only musical guests on that show, and there was over 8,000 people there, and the cool thing about it was not a metal crowd per se, because Ultimate Fighting fans can be everybody from, grandpa down to the kids, and, a lot of those people are not into metal at all, and what was so cool was when we played, right away, a mosh pit erupted down on the floor, and we could actually see people running down the stairs from the upper levels down to the floor when we started playing, and the response there again was really great, and that one really sticks out in my mind because we were able to win over a crowd of people again where you have people that don't like metal music at all, but they seem to enjoy what we did.
That's awesome. Okay, your video Carna Metal, The Story of Saint Madness, is one hell of a teaser. When can we see a DVD come out, like a biography of Saint Madness, with live interviews, behind-the-scenes footage of concerts and live shows?
The plan is this summer. Again, that trailer was produced and put together by Christian Satan.
He did an awesome job.
And, he owns Mollis Productions. And again, the guy's great. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. And
So he's gay.
But we feel really fortunate to have him, Again, he not only produces videos and stuff, he produces his own music with his studio at home. He does artwork for the bands. He plays several instruments.
Multi-talented
He's just one of these really multi-talented people, man. And I just shake my head when I look at people like that because I'm lucky that I even know how to sing.
Wow.
And this guy, plays guitar, bass, drums, harmonica, mandolin, keyboard.
He plays
He's 24 years old.
He's a genius, in other words.
He's a genius, man. I would say that.
I would say that.
Okay.
And in our bands, we let them go crazy, and a lot of bands, try to keep the reins on people and so forth. And with a guy like that, you can't do that because artists are really strange people anyway. And whether you're a sculptor or actor or music or whatever, you're a little bit strange if you're one of the art people. And so...
You know what I don't like about that? Is that you don't have too many friends in a large group of people because they think you're weird.
Yeah.
We are weird.
They are.
You have to be just partly insane to be insane.
You have to have something wrong with you to want to be in a band anyway.
That wears face paint.
Even if you're a painter and you do your own thing, like with the painting and the paintbrush and doing characters and stuff like that, or cartooning, people look at you as if you're kind of strange because you're not in their cliquey group of rumors.
Well, artists in general.
Yeah,
from your
I think so.
feelings in your heart. Whereas a lot of other people maybe live in the intellect where they, watch how they act, watch what they say, watch what they... Artistic people are people who feel everything they see.
You just hit the hammer on the nail on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I sculpt a little. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy it. I draw, I write. So generally, artistic people are artistic in a number of different ways, but I think that's what sets people like that aside from the norm in society, whatever the norm is.
Well, and most critics have no talent whatsoever. That's why they critique you.
This is what the artists can't understand is what is the norm, because they're so creative, and if they don't create, they go crazy.
Right, and that's the thing where I started in music when I was 16 years old, and that's a long, long time ago.
1936.
Yeah. But you know what? I can't tell you how many times in my life I said, you know what? It's over. It's time to retire or get away from this. It's a crazy life. It's a hard life. Blah, 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 blah. And, when I get over it, I go right back to rehearsal because the truth is, like you said, it gets in your blood. It will never leave. By the way, now, Bloom is here. He's got interesting stories because he's played with some pretty known people before. And maybe you can tell her a little bit about that.
Yeah, back in the day, I was playing in a band called Sorcerer. I'm from Seattle, Washington, originally, and my good buddy, Jeff Tate of Queensryche, and we toured in Sorcerer, and then he went on to form Queensryche, and at that point, I could have been in Queensryche, but I had an offer to be a hired gun for the band called Heart, with Ann and Nancy Wilson out of Seattle, and I took that job because I thought that was exciting because I got to play in arenas and everything. It was a great gig, but unfortunately, as being a hired gun, that's all I was. So when it was over, it was over. Obviously, if I'd have made the other decision to stay with Jeff, a little different answer.
It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome.
The experience is got to be amazing.
Yeah. By the way, I'm the drummer of the band.
Have you ever heard of the band Black Oak, Arkansas?
No, I haven't.
I'm guessing that you're not my age, but we're not going to really get into that. But Black Oak, Arkansas was one of the very first bands to go big that was Southern rock. And when Leonard Skinner came out and they went on their first world tour, it was actually opening for Black Oak, Arkansas. When I was a teenager, a young teenager, there was a show on TV.
1936.
There was a show on TV called The Midnight Special, Don Kirshner's rock concert. Anyway, I'm a kid. I'm staying up late watching TV. And for a while they had Jim Dandy in Black Oak, Arkansas host the Midnight Special.
Oh, okay.
And I was so attracted to this band, not because, not only because I thought their music was great, but their front man, here he was like a big rock star, but he was like the coolest guy in the world. And he was very down to earth and he had manners. And so, he was like a mentor of mine. And I saw him in concert a number of times. Every time I saw him, same guy. So anyway, in 1998, the former owner of the Mason Jar, Franco, calls our manager, Marge, and says, Marge, have you ever heard of a band Black Oak something? And she's like, is it Black Oak, Arkansas? And he's like, yeah, who are these guys? And she's like, well, why do you want to know? And he said, because they want to play my club. And she's like, oh my God, Franco, listen, please book that show, and please put St. Madness as the opener. Now, if you pictured St. Madness opening for Leonard Skinner, I don't know that that's a perfect fit there, but he did it. So we showed up that night, and back then we had our own bus, and we brought our bus with us, and I think at that time Black Oak was just touring with a really nice conversion van and a trailer and so forth. So we sent our crew guys over there to tell them, tell Jim and the band that if they want to come relax on the bus before the show, that we'd really like to have them. So we get a knock on the door, and Marge opens the door, and it's Jim Dandy. And you might remember that song, Jim Dandy to the Rescue.
Yeah, I do.
That was their song. And anyway, he's like, ma'am, some people told us that we could come up here and relax on the bus. Is that okay with you? And she's like, why, you're Jim Dandy, aren't you? And he's like, yes, ma'am, I am. Anyway, the point to this long story was he was a mentor of mine, and we actually opened for him, and he sat on our bus for, 2 hours getting drunk, and I smoked a lot of weed, and I got to sit there and tell him what he meant to me and for me getting into music and so forth. And that guy was every bit as cool sitting there with him as he ever was on stage. He was extremely polite. There was no rock star-itis in him. And when he was on stage, he knew how to make an audience thing for me. I mean, when we played side stage for Van Halen, that was huge too, because in the late 70s, early 80s, Van Halen was one of my favorite bands on the planet. So to be able to perform on any show with them was like, a gift straight from God for me.
Yeah, they were one of my favorites. We used to hear them on the radio, and then I'd phone up the Toronto area and request them on Q107 all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to do a lot of really cool things.
Cool.
And we ain't done yet.
Well, yeah, of course not. You got to keep going.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't have a choice. I think somewhere we made a deal with the devil. He won't let us out of the contract, so...
Oh, well, you know what? You got to make your way up here and say the devil made you do it.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Maybe we want to play with Rush.
Yeah, Rush.
Yeah.
If you can help us find a promoter or somebody that would be willing to bring us up there, I mean, we'd do it in a heartbeat. We'd love to do it.
Tell your street team to put out the word.
We will. And if you're ever in the Toronto area, just walk into Q107 and say hi. That's what they love. Because Kim Mitchell DJs from 2 to 7 p.m. at night.
Well, we always do stuff like that.
And Prophet is Canadian, eh?
Well, my mom was born in Prince Edward Island, which I understand now means that I have dual citizenship.
That's correct.
And that's awesome, because I've never... You do too?
My mom was born in Canada.
Well, we're on our way to Canada.
So I got a dual citizen. Yeah.
Well, what the hell are you waiting for?
Coming home.
Coming home, baby.
But I've always wanted to go there. I've never gone to Canada. And again, of course, I'd love to go to Prince Edward Island and see where my mom was born. But just to come to Canada and play there would be an honor,
And I'm Native American. I'm Lakota Indian from South Dakota. It's Devin Lucius.
That's awesome.
And, I've always loved Canada and your flag until I found out it was a maple leaf.
He thought it was a red pot leaf, and he was kind of disappointed.
I was disappointed.
Living in Seattle, I've been to Canada many, many times. Of course, the reason we went up there is you guys got great strip clubs.
Well, we have an Indian reserve,
And
and
you can drink when you're 18 up there.
oh yeah, but you know what? The biggest thing is we got an Indian reserve, and if you're a smoker, then you can get your carton of cigarettes for $10 a bag.
Oh.
Hey.
Well, I smoke Swisher Sweet cigars. Do you have deals up there for those too?
Well,
I'm a cigar smoker.
they might.
Yeah.
Me too.
And you guys have relaxed laws on weed too places, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm moving there.
I'll give you a little secret about Southern Ontario and where my area is, and down into New York. They love death metal. They love extreme metal. They can't get enough of it, the kids here.
Yeah. What would you call our style of metal?
Heavy metal. Extreme.
Heavy metal. Yeah,
Yep. Death
That's
metal.
what I call it.
Yep. Extreme heavy death metal.
We're death metal?
More in some songs, yes.
Cool. Hey, that's cool, man.
In some songs there is a touch of death metal.
We got to mix of everything again.
Easily, They Walk the Earth.
I like all kinds of metal.
Done. That's all got a touch of death metal.
I'm one of these people that is very proud of the 80s because I've heard enough people try to put it down and all that. Now, I'm not an advocate of spandex, but I definitely had my big hair. I wore leather back then. I still wear leather.
You have to be a fan of the 80s because you would not have one death metal band.
Well, yeah, that's my point. The 80s were about having a good time. Remember that? Remember going out and getting wasted and wanting to have a good time? I mean, the 90s were depressing for me. I mean, there was so much depressing music out in the 90s, and I will never be ashamed of the 80s. I had so much fun in the 80s. I played so many shows in the 80s, and I knew so many young ladies in the 80s. I had a very good time in the 80s, and I actually still remember it too, which is great.
There was one of my favorite DJs. He has a saying about the music back then. He was saying that there was 100 bands selling 1 million records. He said, but today you have 1 million bands selling 100 records.
That's correct. Amen.
That was Kim Mitchell who said that on Q107.
It's a double-edged sword because when you have the big labels, you have the money behind you to promote the bands, like it's a product, and to get it out there in front of a lot of people. So that's a good thing, but also when you have that, then the labels kind of control what's popular. They control, the fad. If one band with a certain sound makes it big, then they want 50 of them that look like these guys, sound kind of like them. You have that cookie-cutter mentality because it's all about the money. Whereas nowadays, it's about the independent artist. If you want to get yourself known, you can do it yourself. You might not get, filthy rich and all that, but you know what? You can become famous all on your own. You can produce your own records nowadays. You can promote yourself. You can work your ass off to hone your own craft and make something out of yourself. You don't have to sit around and wait for Mr. Record Man to show up and offer you a contract.
What does the band think of the music industry today and where it's headed in the future?
It's in the toilet.
I like it and I don't like it. You know what I mean? What I love about it is what I just said. Independent bands have the opportunity now to make yourself known and to not have to depend. A big label is really nothing more than a bank. And when you buy a house, the house is your collateral. When you're an artist and you sign a big deal, your music, your merchandise, your name, all that becomes the collateral. It's no different. So they just front you the money, and they help you promote yourself to get out there, and hopefully, you know, your music will pop and you'll make a bunch of money. But it's really just a bank. Nowadays, with the internet and free downloading and all that, again, you know, a band can record their own albums, they can get online, promote the fuck out of themselves, work really hard, you know, pay some dues, and, you know, your music will get out there. You might not become filthy rich, but you might become a legend, and that's worth something. So I like it. It's scary because you want the money of a big label to be out there, and things are changing so fast now. Now it's all about independent artists and free downloading and all that. And sitting here comfortable right now, we're all going, okay, that's the way it is. For all we know, 5-10 years from now, it can be completely different again.
Do you find that you make the most CD sales when you're touring or through digital?
You definitely sell more when you play live. When you play live, people, you know, see you, and if they can't buy your albums at your shows, generally they'll go online or they'll go, you know, wherever. You can get our albums anywhere. You can go to Best Buy online and type in St. Madness, and you can order the records there. You know, you can just write to stmadness.com, stmadness.com, and just tell us, you know, what record you want, and, you know, we'll send it out to you.
And what T-shirt you want.
How about lighters and guitar picks? Do you sell those and papers?
We are out of guitar picks right now. We need to order some more. You know, we have stickers. We have a new T-shirt, which is a modernized version of the old St. Madness Circle logo. And it says St. Madness up top and St. Tannic on the bottom. It has a couple skulls and fleur-de-lis and 667. It looks pretty cool. Again, that design is by Christian Satan.
What's the most popular music genre in Scottsdale, Arizona right now?
Wow. Hip-hop?
Hip-hop.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I really don't know.
Do you play a lot of live shows in your area, locally?
We play quite a bit of shows here, yeah.
Do you get a great turnout of fans?
We do, and then we've had times where we've had small crowds. It's really, you know, if you play too much, I don't care who you are, if you play too much in certain areas, eventually everybody goes, hey, you know, I've seen them 10 times, maybe I can skip a couple.
Okay.
I think it is important to keep moving, or if you're stuck in one area, play a cluster of shows and then back off for a while, and then come back again and do a cluster again and then back off again. You know, even major bands, when they put out an album, they'll do a tour and then they'll disappear for 3 years. And there's a reason for that, because if you overexpose yourself too much, then after a while people get so used to seeing you out there that they kind of lose interest.
On mainstream radio, you're saying that the genre of music out there is hip-hop.
I don't really know. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't listen to a lot of mainstream radio, and I'm not against it. I just don't do it.
Okay.
And I listen to rock and roll and metal stations.
Well, if you're talking the mainstream genre for a radio station here, you have there's stations that play many different types of music.
I mean, country music's big here.
They have one station that plays blocks of country music, blocks of rap, blocks of metal. That's a huge station here in Phoenix. But you have your separate stations that plays the classic metal and the new metal. So it's basically all in preference here. You really couldn't say there's one that's better than the other. Yeah, that would be a hard call on that one.
We got a lot of mix with the college radio stations up here, is playing the new indie bands and really getting their name out there, like all the underground bands. But then our mainstream radio, we're still stuck in the 80s.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's not such a bad
That's not a bad thing.
Again, that music back then was positive. Even when they were singing about negative, dark stuff, it still had like a positive feel to it. You know, the 80s were about good times, partying. America was, you know, very strong at that time, and for us here in America, I think
everybody had race cars back then, too.
Well, again, it was about the bigger, better. Even the shows in the 80s, the bands that were touring, it was about putting on a big show, giving people their money's worth.
Stage props.
And then in the 90s, it turned into the anti-that, where
you don't do that.
Jeans and a T-shirt and stare at your shoes all night. And that's cool, too. I mean, I'm cool with, I understand a lot of different people like a lot of different things. But for me, I appreciate when people put on a show and they go the extra 9 yards to entertain me. And maybe it's because I grew up in that era. That's what I like.
Yeah.
But hip-hop wise, I love Eminem, man. I think his as a lyricist, I think he's brilliant. I think he's a genius. Yeah, we like ICP and Twisted.
And Ice-T, you said that?
Hmm?
You said Ice-T?
ICP.
Oh, okay.
Insane Clown Posse.
I used to watch much music a lot as a child growing up, and one of my favorites was Ice-T, the rapper.
Yeah, well, I like Body Count. That's his metal band. I actually like their stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
What I said we should do with St. Madness, and maybe somebody will steal this idea now, but we like to take some songs and kind of twist them. Like if we do a cover, we try to twist it and kind of put the St. Madness thing on it, or whatever you want to call it. And I wanted to take the song Cop Killer and change it to Crop Killer and have it be about smoking marijuana. And just take his words and everything that's about cops, just twist it into crops.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah,
we haven't done it yet, so anybody out there, if you think it's a great idea, go for it.
Oh.
We did that with the song, we took the Divinal song, When I Think About You, I Touch Myself, and we changed it on the Vampires in the Church album to I Cut Myself. And all I did there is I just took her lyrics, and whenever she said she touched herself, I changed it to I Cut Myself. And every one of her lines where she was saying something positive, I just took that same line and turned it to a negative, and we kind of did a parody of that song, and it came out really cool.
That's awesome. Is the band working on any new material for 2009, and are they going to be making videos or live videos of their next album, like live studio sessions?
Oh, possibly.
We plan to. We do.
Yeah.
We actually have some video footage of, I've got video footage of us recording the Spiritual Visions record back in '96. We've got a bunch of that.
2009.
No, but I'm saying we have a bunch of the in-studio video footage. So we've done that a lot over the years, so I imagine we'll probably, continue to do that. Is that something that you're saying you'd like to see?
Yeah, especially in that Carnival, the story of St. Madness. Like, are you going to come out with a DVD with all that live footage eventually?
We probably will.
There was a plan to talk about that as well.
Awesome.
And we're also working on some new music as well.
Can you give us a hint about the new songs?
Well, we have a brand new one that we're working on called All I Have to Give.
Okay.
And then we have a new one called Revenge that Christian, again, his guitar playing is taking it even to another level. Like Satanic is probably, if not the heaviest record we've done, it's definitely right up there. And the stuff that Christian Satan's working on now is heavier, faster, even more energy than those, and more progressive. So he's kind of getting more and more progressive with each year that passes. And he first started working with St. Madness when he was 18 years old.
Wow.
So, and it was funny because Marge told me, she's like, I got a guitar player coming down to audition. I'm like, cool, who is it? And she's like, well, he's 18. And I got mad because, not because, I realize there's tons of young, very, very talented people out there. But at that, point, I did not want to work with someone that young. I wanted a more experienced, guy who's been in a number of bands or has done some touring or whatever. So I got mad, and I was pissed off all the way to rehearsal. And so she felt really bad that she told this kid, yeah, come on down. So, but oddly enough, the second he walked through the door, I understand what KISS meant when they said the second Ace Frehley walked through the door, they looked at him and he was kind of a strange guy, but there was like this feeling about him right off the bat. Well, when Christian walked in the door, here came this 18-year-old kid, but, there was just something about him. And initially he auditioned on the bass, and he was amazing on the bass. And that night he goes, hey Marvin, you mind if I play your guitar for a minute? And he's like, yeah, go for it. So he takes Mad Marvin's guitar, and I think he was playing Metallica or something, but he was doing it note for note, and I was just like, my jaw was on the floor. So I had to apologize really good people in this band over the years. But, you know, Christian Satan, the work and the effort that he's put forth so far since he joined the band, I couldn't ask for a better guy and a more talented guy.
I guess my last question is, before we wrap up our interview, does St. Madness have any shout-outs to their disciples and friends?
Shout out?
Yep.
Yeah. To anybody out there who believes in metal music, don't ever give up. I don't care what fad comes in. I don't care what people say. It's all dead. It's all over. You know, if it's in your heart and you're breathing, it ain't over. And for us, it's to the death and beyond.
Metal forever.
I want to thank you for this interview and the awesome CD, Satanic, We Can't Stop Playing It Every Day. Horns High, St. Madness, you rock.
Thank you so much. And our music is even better after you smoke a fat hooter.
And if we're ever in Toronto, you got to bring all your friends and we'll have a barbecue.
Yeah, bring your friends, barbecue, and bring lots of good smoke.
Okay.
But mostly your friends.
Yeah, bring friends and lots of friends.
All right, we'll do. And Indian friends, too.
Oh,
And Indian friends too. Say in my people's language, hoka hey.